the Pistons Talk podcast. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday night so far. I do apologize that there hasn't been podcasts for the past couple of days. I think the last time we did a podcast was on Monday with Wes Davenport and Blake Silverman from the Detroit Bad Boys. So if you guys have not already checked out that episode, definitely do. Had a really good discussion about player exceptions, power forward, backup power forward, dilemma. It was a really fun episode talking with those guys. But why you guys are here today, Caris LeVert, he did talk to the available media members, Detroit Pistons media members, a few days ago. So what we'll do in today's episode is play those interviews and give our overall thoughts and opinions on what he said. So let's get straight into it. The very first clip that we're going to be playing is Caris talking about coming to the Detroit Pistons. So here's the clip.
I got word that the Pistons were interested probably, I think, kind of last minute, really. I'm a big fan of the culture here. Obviously, I played for JB for 3 years, but I'm a big fan of a lot of the guys on the team, fan of how they work, how they play, how competitive they are. I think they got really high character guys in the organization. Trajan was with me in Brooklyn, so there's a connection there as well. And then obviously a lot of the staff was in Cleveland. So I'm super excited to be back here playing in the state of Michigan and playing for this team. I'm super excited.
So there's a lot to dig into with that 40-second interview clip. I think the first thing we can start with is he's already played for JB Bickerstaff, played some of his best basketball in his career under JB, played for him 3 years in Cleveland. Also mentioned that he is familiar with some assistant coaches that came over from Cleveland. That would be Luke Walton. So he's familiar with Luke Walton as well. And I think that's actually pretty huge, considering he is familiar with what JB expects out of him. So JB isn't getting a brand new player that the Pistons just signed in free agency. He knows what Caris is capable of, and I think that's actually a huge benefit for the Detroit Pistons and JB Bickerstaff and this coaching staff, because they now know I've had this player before. I know what to expect from him. I don't really have to, really get up on him and coach him that way, because he already is really familiar with Caris LeVert in that way. Another thing he mentioned is he had a connection already with Trajan Langdon. Now, Trajan Langdon worked in the Brooklyn Nets front office as well. Trajan worked there for a little bit, so Caris is familiar with Trajan Langdon as well. So if you kind of connect the dots, had a previous relationship with JB Bickerstaff, had a previous connection with Trajan Langdon. I think this is a pretty good fit for the Detroit Pistons, and he's a very versatile player. And the final thing in that little interview clip said he's happy to be playing back in Michigan. Played his college ball at the University of Michigan, which I'm sure U of M fans are very familiar with Caris LeVert. And I did want to put a tweet on the screen. This is from Amari Sankofa. He said, Caris LeVert talked to the Pistons media for the first time yesterday. He said he found out last minute that they wanted to sign him. He FaceTimed former Michigan teammate Tim Hardaway Jr. before signing, and he told him, quote, he was just telling me how great everybody was there. Now, Tim Hardaway Jr. was already in really good graces with me, talked very positively about the Pistons on a podcast last month, just talking about the fans, the culture, how great it was to, play for the Detroit Pistons. Like, THJ did not have to do that. THJ didn't have to say, oh, you don't want to go to Detroit. He said, they're great there. You'll love it. And I think that just kind of speaks of Tim Hardaway Jr.'s character and as a person, saying you'll love playing for Detroit. You'll love, playing for all the coaching staff. The players there are great. The training staff's great. So shout out to you, THJ. We do really appreciate it, because I think we're getting a very versatile player in Caris LeVert. Now, Caris also touched on head coach JB Bickerstaff, and this is what he had to say about Coach JB.
Yeah, I think JB brought out a different part of my game, and I've always said that. I think once I went to Cleveland, I was asked to play defense, and before then, I wasn't really asked to play defense. And I think that's one of the stronger parts of my game now. And I think that's just because of how we played, and just the importance that he placed on defense. So I think my time in Cleveland really evolved me as a player, just defensively, and then kind of playing off the ball as well. I think those 2-3 things kind of really helped me take my game to the next level, to the player that I am now. Because I think before I went to Cleveland, before I played under JB, I was a different player, and I think that he kind of challenged me to be, a more well-rounded player than I am today. So I'm definitely looking forward to this time around for sure.
So he touched on his relationship with Coach JB Bickerstaff and said, before I went to Cleveland, I wasn't really asked to play defense in Brooklyn. And JB challenged him. And we all know what type of coach JB Bickerstaff is. He expects a lot of his players. And we saw the development this year with the young core and Kate Cunningham, Jalen Duren, etc. But Caris gives him a lot of credit for his development as a basketball player. And I think that's huge because this is a very young team still. Still one of the youngest teams in the NBA, believe it or not. And having a guy like that has played under JB, has played some of his best basketball in his career under JB, kind of just tipping his cap to him, saying, JB really changed me as a basketball player. He really helped me develop my game on both ends of the floor. And he kind of touched like, hey, like defense now is kind of one of my calling cards, is a stronger part of my game. So as Pistons fans, if you want to take anything out of that, short little interview clip, that, Caris has spoke very highly of JB Bickerstaff and the type of coach he is. And I think we saw it this year. I mean, tripling our win total, going from 14 to 44 wins, finishing as the top 6 seed. I think there's a lot to be excited with this young team and with a guy like Caris LeVert that developed quite a bit under Coach JB Bickerstaff. Now, we have one more interview clip, and this is Caris LeVert talking about the Detroit Pistons from afar.
Yeah. I kind of saw it coming. I saw, obviously, they got really good young players. Cade, Duren, Sar, Ivy, Stewart. Like, they got a lot of young guys that are really good. And when you're a young player in this league, you're kind of right there. You know what I mean? I think the year before last, they were in a lot of games that they lost. They were in a lot of them. And I think this year, they kind of just took that step. And I know JB was a big part of it, but I think that the guys, took a step forward and, had a component of, we're not going to be that bad again this year. And I think that's what you want as a young player. You want that hunger. And I think these guys have it for sure.
So it's kind of funny. Last year around this time, when Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. were in the same shoes that Caris LeVert is in, being a brand new player on the Detroit Pistons, and these reporters always ask him, like, what did you see from the Detroit Pistons, under Monty Williams during that, 14-win season? And they've all kind of said the same thing. Like, they were in a lot of games. There were winnable games. They just didn't really fully understand how to close out a basketball game and win the game. And if you guys did experience the 28 game losing streak, the 14-win season, if you were watching basketball games back then, you would probably agree that, the Pistons, even though they only won 14 games that year, they were still in games. They just really didn't have that leadership from vets to kind of steer them in the right direction, show them how to, win basketball games, show them how to develop winning habits. And I think that's what Caris saw as well. I just kind of found it interesting that, we've had multiple veterans over the past 2 off seasons say, like, they weren't as bad as people like really saying that they actually were. Yes, losing 28 straight games sucks. Winning 14 games in a season, not great. But you could see the competitive nature, and I don't think those young guys ever want to experience that type of losing again. And I don't think we're really going to see that type of losing unless there's this like crazy amount of injuries. Knock on wood. We don't want that. We want to have a healthy, uh, good upcoming season. But I was really, pleased with Caris LeVert in these, short interviews uh, with the Detroit Pistons media members. It's cool to see that he has a strong connection with JB Bickerstaff. Still, kind of credits his development of being a two-way player on this basketball team. Also has a connection with Trajan Langdon, the Detroit Pistons president of basketball ops. And just from afar, he likes the young core. He likes, Cade, Ivy, Stu, Duran, all these young guys on this basketball team. But overall, was nice to hear from him because we didn't really get to see him at summer league. I don't know if he had like a previous engagement, maybe he was on vacation because it is off season. But um, let me know what you guys think of this short presser uh, from Caris LeVert. Initial takeaways with him. Um, Something that maybe I didn't touch on, definitely leave it down below in the comment section. If you're an audio listener, definitely leave a comment on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. But I want to keep this short and sweet. You guys don't really like to keep these, podcasts during the week too long. But talk to you guys soon. Take care. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.